Here we go, everybody. The Rise and Grind podcast, episode number 2. Kim, we did it. We got not only past episode 1, we are into episode number 2. Fantastic. So what is the Rise and Grind podcast about? You know, it's about getting up and getting after it, really. Wouldn't you say? I mean, we get up every day, we go to work, we go to life, and we bring fitness to the masses. And we talk about fitness full circle. We talk about physical fitness, health fitness, wealth fitness. Kim, what you do, risk fitness, all the different fitnesses. That's what we do. We get up and rise and grind every day. And in this podcast, we talk about important things, very important things. And
not so important things.
And very not so important things. So we're going to kick this thing off.
Awesome. Let's do it. Let's have some fun.
All right. Well, today's podcast, we're going to talk about this study that came out of the United Kingdom about wine. Kim, you're going to love this. Yeah. Here, all this time, you thought being a wino wasn't going to get you anywhere. We're going to talk about it. And we're also going to talk about something that's this exceedingly massive. The Tiger King is back. And we're going to go over the Tiger King being back, Kim. That's fantastic. He's not out of jail, but he is back.
He's back. Carol is back. So.
Carol is back too. And keeping yourself fit because others aren't. We're going to talk a little bit about how you can keep yourself fit strictly because those around you may not be doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So moving into this, Kim, when we set out this podcast, we wanted a couple of things. We said, hey, what do we want to accomplish out of this podcast? And I think we came up, we did some numbers, you and I, we figured out some numbers, and we said, let's try to have 2 listeners.
That was the goal. 2,
that was the goal.
2 listeners.
And we have since tripled that. There is 6 listeners. I know.
We have at least 6 listeners now.
I know. We're 3 times more successful than we ever thought we would be.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But even
it's because of you. It's not because of me.
I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. Is because we actually got some comments. We got all positive comments for a couple of reasons. Number 1, we are very positive people. But number 2, negative comments software it completely wiped them out. So we wouldn't even know if we got negative ones. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Steve in South Kitsap, he said the podcast was great and it flowed really well. And as a testament to you, Kim, he said, I need to get a quote on insurance.
Hey, Steve.
Straight up. I can't even make that up. I can't make stuff up. I mean, I can, but I would make up something better. That. And so we also had Val in Silverdale. She said, it's hard to believe it's your first podcast because you guys work so good together.
Oh.
Again, a testament to my co-host for sure. And then lastly, Brad in Bellevue said, since negative comments are not available, I'll say terrific job.
Brad, coming in with, I appreciate that.
Look for the silver lining, Kim. That's what I always say, right?
I like that he prefaced it that because I can't say anything negative, I'll just be like, cool, terrific job.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the kind of listeners that we want right there. Ones that say, hey, I might have some negative feedback, but I'm just going to keep it to myself. I'm just going to go with the positive. And that's the listener that we're trying to reach.
Yes. Loyal clients for life. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So Kim, we're going to talk about our unofficial sponsor of the R&G podcast. That is the Coffee Oasis. Kim, the Coffee Oasis produces youth programs that create safe, shared spaces, mentorship, street and school outreach, goal setting, job training, shelter, meals, laundry, clothing, and crisis intervention. Geez, they do it all. But the only way for their mission to succeed is through the support of the entire community. So community, all 6 of you, how do we support their mission? We buy their coffee.
Buy their coffee.
Write that down, Kim, and underline it. Buy their coffee.
And not just like they have delicious crafted coffee. So if you want a cup of Joe, go there rather than another location. They're all over the place. They're in Port Orchard, they're in Bremerton, they're in Kingston, they're in Paulsbo, and they're coming to Silverdale. I have heard that they are coming to Silverdale. I think it's a library. Do you know what I'm talking about? But all that to say, if you're going to buy a cup of Joe, buy it from them, or buy it. They've got coffee for sale. Like they've got bagged bean and ground coffees. If you want to buy coffee for your kitchen at home or for your office stock, that's a great way of supporting them as well.
That's absolutely right. Because where you get your coffee may not mean much to you, but it means everything to them. So Coffee Oasis, restoring communities through compassionate youth programs and coffee business. So go to their business and get some coffee.
That's it.
That's it. So Kim, you got to tell me you saw this study. It is a relationship between wine and COVID. It was passed out all around the internet. It was actually sent to me by a client. Did you see this?
No, actually, I have not seen that, but I'm hoping that you're going to tell me that the more wine you drink, the healthier you'll be to combat COVID.
Well, I'm not going to tell you that, but the UK National Health Service might want to try to tell you that. The study is hilarious, right? The study found that those who don't drink at all were more likely to get COVID-19, while those who drink liquor had no more or less chance of contracting the virus. That's on the liquor side. But here's what they found. If you drink 14 glasses of red wine or fewer per week, you're 17% less likely to get COVID-19. How about
14 glasses of wine. So let's break that down. 7 days in a week, that's 2 glasses of wine a day.
Yep. That's and by some standards, like most, that's not considered moderate, but that's okay because this is the UK, so it's different over there. But here's what I want to tell you though. White wine, champagne, you're not getting it from the white wine or the champagne. In this particular study, it was strictly red wine and 14 glasses or fewer. Now,
okay.
Here's the thing, Kim. Before you start double pouring yourself, because
I'm about to open a bottle right now. Is it?
I was going to say, yeah. You're like, yeah. I'm fighting COVID, folks. It's not really good information because the WHO, World Health Organization, will tell you that there are short-term and long-term damages to your health because of alcohol in excess moderation, and that would typically be considered excess moderation.
So, Brett, I don't understand. If it's online, isn't it true? Doesn't it have to be true if you found it online?
Well, and I would think that because as not only was it found online, it also came out of a National Health Service too. So yeah. But unfortunately, alcohol also increases the chance of acute respiratory distress syndrome, which is a key characteristic of the COVID-19. So probably the reason being in this, just talking from a health perspective, is probably the antioxidants and stuff that's going to be found in the grapes and the various other things that's in the wine. So while I'm not going to dispute those guys in the UK in their pub drinking their wine, I will say that you might be able to get just as good antioxidants, maybe from juice.
So you could replace the wine with, pardon me, you could replace the wine with grape juice and get the same benefit, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and probably not the acute respiratory distress.
Wow. I'm starting to wonder about our credible sources, if it's some sort of health organization that's released a study. I think pretty soon people are going to get their information from podcasts like this one.
Yeah,
with credible people like you.
Quality podcasts like this one. Yeah. So I'm just letting you know that's the clickbait of the week. We see these, and it's one of those things that we got to take a look at. You got to see. And like I say, somebody passed it along to me. I was like, no way. There's no way. But fortunately, the article was done really well. It said, here's the deal with the 14 glasses of wine. It seems pretty cool, but here's the reality.
Well, I love that this was one of your clients that sent this to you, because I've been your client. I am your client. And I would imagine that the goal of sending you that article is to say, hey, coach, I'm pretty sure we could put red wine back into my daily diet just to combat COVID.
That is 1000% accurate. That's exactly what it is. So a lot of what I do is basically just researching stuff for people and be like, No, not this go round. Good luck with that.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you for that clickbait today. I needed to hear that.
Absolutely. And thank you to the listener that sent that to us. So if you guys have any clickbait stuff that you want to send to us and let us break down on the air, we would love to do that. Send it to us. We're going to attach the link in the podcast so you can get a hold of us.
I was just going to say, and feel free to keep those positive comments coming each episode. I really appreciate that. My ego feels a little bit boosted today, and I need that. So thank you for all the positive comments out of our listeners.
Well, I got to hear more about this, Kim, because you were crazy excited about this. You hit me with this. Just the banter that we had on this was hilarious. You hit me with this earlier in the week. You said, "Oh my God, I'm so excited. The Tiger King is back."
Right.
And
I'm appalled. I am truly, I don't know. I think I'm upset to the fact of how you can be so, I don't know, out of the loop of mainstream media that you had never even heard of the Tiger King before I brought it up this week. Like, how's that possible?
Kim, oblivious is my superpower, just so you know. That's how I operate. Yeah. What keeps me safe and strong and sound is my ability to be oblivious to the world around me. But,
oh my gosh, yes.
So I don't know anything about this Tiger King. I'm like, oh my God, is Jackie Chan making another movie? No, Brett.
No.
You're like, no, this guy raises tigers. Oh, no, I heard about that. Didn't he get eaten on stage with like Siskel and Ebert or Penn and Teller in Las Vegas? And you said no.
So let's rewind. So 2 years ago in 2020, Netflix released this documentary series. It was about Joe Exotic, who's actually named Joseph Maldonado Passage. And Joe is a ridiculous person to start off. He's a zookeeper who keeps all these tigers specifically. And he's got this enemy, this nemesis named Carol Baskin, and they have this feud going on. And Carol is her own crazy storyline because Carol, well, she should be in prison for one. But for two, she's a cat rescuer. But when you watch the show, you're pretty much like, she's doing the same thing that Joe is doing. She's making money on having cats, and people come through to see the cats at her rescue. It's, you have your own glorified zoo, Carol. You're not saving these cats by any means. But the real beef on Carol is that her second husband in like 97 or something had mysteriously disappeared, and she already had access to tigers by that point in time. So the theory is she clearly fed her husband to a tiger. Like, there's zero remains to be found.
Clearly.
It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, it seems relatively cut and dry. Just based upon your investigation, it seems fairly cut and dry.
I'm clearly an investigator. As an insurance agent, you do a lot of field investigation. But I will say that, so that was Netflix 2 years ago. So now, March of this year, 2 years later, Peacock is rolling out a series about the Tiger King. And this time, hilarious actress Kate McKinnon from SNL is going to be playing Carol Baskin. And I think this is all stemming from, she did like an SNL skit, and she was so funny as Carol Baskin that the Peacock is picking this up and running with it. And I never heard of the guy that's playing Joe. I wrote down his name. I had never heard of him before, but he's from a lot of musicals and things like that. His name's John or something like that. But I'm pretty excited.
They could have done a full cast, because I will tell you, after you told me about this Lion King phenomenon and that I was conceivably the last person on the earth that has seen this show, I watched it. I went over to my Netflix.
Hey.
I pulled up an episode. I know you're very influential.
I'm proud of you.
I watched this thing, and I didn't get through the first episode. I did all the research that I needed to do. You're talking about binging this episode. I wanted to purge the episode as soon as I saw it. But I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but I do have a suggestion. Why didn't they go full on Saturday Night Live cast and bring back Joe Dirt? Joe Dirt would have been perfect to play Joe Exotic.
Hey, I could see it. No, I appreciate that you tried to watch it. And I think that really it's like anything. Pardon me. Whoa. Reset.
You're getting really choked up. You're really getting choked up about this show.
I'm really choked up about this. But it's like anything. The first episode, like the pilot, is hard to watch. Like, I don't know if you ever got into, you probably didn't because you don't do anything normal, but the rest of the world got into The Office for many years. Still are huge Office fan. I'm a huge Office fan. And watching the pilot episode of The Office, completely different from this documentary, obviously, but it's cringy. It's hard to watch. Like the first episode of almost anything is hard to watch, but you have to be committed to the binge watching. And if you get through episode 2 and 3, you're hooked. Same thing for this documentary. I promise you get through episode 2 and 3. If you're 80% of a normal human being, you will be hooked to watch.
But I think I'm gonna have to disagree with you a little bit on this one, Kim. Is that the first pilot episode of the Rise and Grind podcast was absolutely amazing, and so it was not hard to get through, and so that's where we're gonna have to disagree a little bit on that. So
all right, I will accept that dispute. I will take that praise for our first episode.
The show, I just want to recant what I saw on the show. Right, there's this guy, right, and he's raising tigers, and he's doing it differently than the other lady that's raising tigers because she's not selling them for profit, but she's making a profit, and anyway. The whole part I was focused on through this whole show. First of all, all the line of products that he had in his gift shop, right? He's got the animal underwear and the tiger lotion and all that stuff. I was like, man, that guy's a marketing genius. Should we ever get to the rise and grind anything, we're gonna have to call Texas Penitentiary and get some information from Joe Dirt.
The fact that he started this documentary, like he was so narcissistic. He started this documentary before it was even a thing. He just wanted to film himself every single day. It's amazing. Like, and then it turns into this actual documentary where he's going to prison and everyone wants to follow the storyline of it. And I mean, I don't know why we're not all doing the same thing with access that we have now, with all of these, selfies and this podcast and everything. We should just really start filming our lives every day, because you just never know when your storyline's going to get picked up and turn into something different.
Well, it's just, if he could go back in time, would he do a documentary about him hiring a hitman to kill a lady? I just don't leave that at it. Don't be so narcissistic that you want to film that. They're big man. Jeez Louise.
Oh,
but here's the whole time that I thought about this, I'm like, man, are my next door neighbors, are they raising tigers? I need to know about this because be
careful.
In that first episode, there was a dude, I don't remember where he's from, but remember he let all his animals go in the city. I'm like, man, it went up all Jumanji there in Wisconsin or whatever it was. And I'm like, holy cow, I am not sure that I want to be a part of that. I'm not sure I have the coverage. The insurance coverage for that. What kind of coverage, Kim? You're on the inside of this. What kind of coverage do I need if a lion gets loose and eats one of my neighbors? Is that?
I tell you what, a lot of insurance companies are pretty picky about the breed of dog that you have, that I would be quite concerned if your neighbors are raising cats or having exotic animals. And there's a lot of exotic animal exclusions out there. And there's forms for that. So I would make sure that if you're going to buy a house these days in Kitsap County or Pierce County or Mason County, make sure that there's no cat rescue next door or exotic animal shelter, because odds are there's an exclusion for that.
That's a good piece of advice, because let's get a real estate agent on the podcast, and that'll have to be one of the topics of contention, because there's that whole show, We Bought a Zoo. There's like a Disney show, right? Yeah, we got to figure out about that kind of stuff too. But so let's take the flip side of this thing. Let's say my neighbors.
All right.
Let's say my neighbors are raising big cats, right? can I get insurance for myself if one of me and my family members get eaten? Because what I have to worry about, keeping myself fit when other people's aren't. You know what I mean?
I tell you what, I think what you're describing might be life insurance, because as long as you have a life insurance policy in place, it really doesn't matter what took you out. If it's a big cat from next door, you're okay. Your family's going to be covered with the death benefit. Now, if you're talking about surviving that accident,
I'm gonna have you take a look at my policy though to make sure I don't have any big cat claws in that thing. But you know,
yes,
it's really, you know, I think it's really about that too. You know, I think, you know, not only do you have that one side of it, you also have the other side of it. You know, how are you got to look out for yourself when other people aren't looking out for you, in a lot of different respects. But you know, that's really a lot what that comes down to.
Well, and it sounds, what you're saying sounds a whole lot like uninsured motorist coverage, which is like, so on your auto policy, the best way to look out for yourself is an underinsured or uninsured motorist protection. And I'm telling you, from where I sit on my side of the desk, people that have full coverage out there, many times this is one area that they skip. And I don't know why. I don't know if they just never had an agent. They're just signing up online and calling a 1-800 number and putting the policy together. But their uninsured motorist protection, the most important part of this is that this is what protects you. Oftentimes, if people do have fairly good liability protection, let's say they've got 100,000, 300,000 for liability, that's what protects other people. So if you're involved in an accident, that's your liability, your protection against other people. So you've caused this harm and now they have to go to the hospital. They have all these medical bills and bodily injury harm. That's what pays for them. So your uninsured motorist is what pays for you. And so why would you reject that coverage? Because, I mean, especially in Washington state, like 1 in 5 drivers, last I checked, were completely uninsured out there. And our state minimums are so low. Do you know what those are? Our state minimums are $25,000 per person and $50,000 aggregate. That means in total. So if you're in like a 3-car pileup and multiple people are injured, you only have $25,000 to cover their injuries. That could be a one-night stay for one person at a hospital.
So how does that?
Never mind. Sorry.
I'm sorry. So how does that work? Like the uninsured motorist piece. So you're underinsured. I mean, you have insurance because everyone's going to say, God, I have to have insurance. You know. So how do you get? Because I almost kind of think that, you know, uninsured motorist is important. You know, to protect against uninsured motorists, but you could be an underinsured motorist and not know it. I mean, because you say, gosh, I'm not an uninsured motorist because I have insurance, but you could be an underinsured motorist. And gosh, there's, you know, I don't do insurance, but I know horror stories of people that thought, gosh, I didn't realize I was underinsured and I come into this situation.
Well, and that's the scary part, is people don't realize. So let's just say that they are insured with state minimums. They're the ones that hit you. Their payout are $25,000. Again, that could cover one night for you. But you're in the hospital for a full week. Maybe you have a broken bone or a broken back or, you know, whatnot, and you're going to be there for quite some time, not to mention rehabilitation, loss of wages, being out of work. And so that's when your uninsured motorist for your own policy could kick in as a backup supplement to help protect you. And not only are we talking about like when you're in your own vehicle in a car accident, that's not your fault, but also let's just say you're on your property. This is a true story. So one country client was, it was like a snowy day and they were sledding down their hill, sledding down the driveway in the snow. Totally normal. A car comes by, hits the kid in the road. Luckily, the kid did live, but was severely injured. And the car flees the scene. So now this is a case of uninsured motorist because we have to pretend that the car that hit and caused everything is never going to be found. So uninsured motorist immediately kicked in with country and they paid out the full amount, which was $250,000 payable to that family for having uninsured motorist protection. And they weren't even in their vehicle. They were just hanging out at home. That's how important this coverage really is and how it follows you. Another true story from country was a gal was pumping gas at a gas station. Someone tries to come around the car and steal her truck. She was not the kind of gal to let that happen easily, so she was trying to wrestle the guy out of her vehicle, and he started to drive away from the pump, and she was fighting it still and hanging onto the car. Didn't end well. She got halfway driven over by her own vehicle because her legs got tangled up in front of the tire. And she did also live, but her pelvis was crushed. And so she had to get extensive surgeries and hospital care. And in that moment, because the guy ditched the car like a mile down the road and like fled on foot.
Let him have the truck.
Uninsured motorist kicked in to protect her. But yes, that's another example of that, where she wasn't even operating her own vehicle, and she was injured by an auto accident. So,
jeez, peeps.
Uninsured motorist is important.
Yeah. First of all, I don't want to be that guy, but man, let him have the truck, dude. Yeah.
Right.
But you know,
don't be a hero.
If it were me, I look forward to that. Maybe someday somebody tries to take my truck from me.
I don't think I'd try to steal your truck. I don't think I would try that.
Test out my judo skills. No skills. I'm built for looks. I am not built for anything tangible besides looks.
No, honestly, when I get out of the vehicle to pump gas, I always lock my car. Like I immediately lock my car so that when I'm walking around it, someone can't just come and grab open the door. Which is really inconvenient because I lock my car, my gas tank locks too. So it's like a dance. I have to like walk around my car, open my gas tank, then lock my car, pump my gas, and then unlock my car. Anyways, all that to say, it's going to be hard to steal my vehicle. I will make it very, very difficult for you.
Hey, speaking of stealing, did you hear about this old lady like in somewhere in the Midwest, busted a shoplifter? Yeah, it's like ladies in her 70s. This guy filled up a big old basket full of goods and was wheeling it out, and old 70-year-old lady wasn't having it. She's having none of it. Oh yeah, totally gave it to him. Man,
I cannot wait to be a 70-year-old lady. Like that's when your real sass comes out. I think that's when you've really earned, to be as sassy as you want to be. My grandmas were the sassiest.
And that's I'm gonna have to just be completely jealous because I will never be a 70-year-old woman. I'll never be able to experience the sass of a 70-year-old woman.
To wrap it up, I will say just assume that the cars around you have less coverage than you need.
And assume your neighbors don't have big cat insurance.
Protect yourself as best as you can.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Protect yourself as best you can. Because I said,
don't buy a house next to a cat rescue.
Yeah, that's like I said, keep yourself fit because you can't guarantee that the others around you are keeping yourself fit either. So that wraps up today's podcast, Kim.
Oh my gosh.
That is number 2. Yes.
I feel like we've been doing this for years.
At least Val from Silverdale, that's what her comment was. So
I'm excited to read these comments. I didn't even look at the comments. I'm so ashamed of myself. Now I bet Steve has been like, yo, I told you I wanted a quote. What's going on?
They came in through different areas. They came in through, some of them came through directly through me on Facebook. Some of them came in through our Facebook site, which is probably a great segue, folks. If you want to know more about the Rise and Grind podcast, my co-host Kim is an absolute whiz on social. Because my superpower of oblivious keeps me out of social pretty good. And so if you have any comments, you got anything that you want to see from us, the best way to go is to go to the Rise and Grind podcast Facebook page. If you haven't liked it, but feel free to reach out to us and give us any positive feedback. Again, the software works against negative feedback, but we want to know topics. We want to know what you think. We want to know any of that kind of stuff at all. But here's what else you can find too. Who the next guest is for episode number 3. I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag. Cody Coffee Clark.
Cody Clark
from the
Coffee Oasis.
Coffee Oasis. He's gonna come in. He's gonna talk about how he works to keep the lesser fortunate fit with food, shelter, clothing, and friendship. And we want to hear all about that.
Coolest.
Cody is the coolest.
I know that's going to be, they are our unofficial sponsor, Coffee Oasis, and I'm so jazzed to have them on our podcast next week. And they have their own podcast too. We should probably put a plug in for that next week for Cody. Too.
And you know what I'm really excited about for the unofficial sponsor is to find so that he can find out that he is the unofficial sponsor. I'm not even sure we've even let him in on that yet. He's going to be so happy.
We're talking about your organization, your nonprofit, every single episode on our podcast, and we're doing it for free because we love it so much. So
absolutely. So guys, if you like this podcast, we're going to find us on Apple Podcasts. You're going to find us on Spotify. You're going to find us on Anchor, YouTube. We got our YouTube channel, Rise and Grind Podcast. Like us, subscribe to us. You're going to find all the new episodes. You can drop comments in there, folks. We just want to keep bringing you good quality fun. And maybe some important stuff too. Maybe. But definitely some not so important stuff.
Oh man, I'm so excited for the day that someone's been listening to us on an audio only version like the Spotify for like 6 months, and then all of a sudden they see our YouTube. Because I've always loved that when you listen to the radio and you can't put a face to the voice. You can't do it. You imagine them in your own way, and then you see them and you're like, oh. No, that's not how they look. That's not what I described in my head.
Until just this moment, Kim. I wasn't nervous.
Well, when you wanted to do the YouTube where they can see us, I was nervous from the start. I was like, oh no, man, people are gonna be looking at me. That's when I get nervous. I can talk all day long.
That concludes Rise and Grind Podcast. Stay tuned, folks. We're gonna be launching another one here in 2 weeks. We're glad to have you. Glad for you to tune in.
All
Bye,
right,
everybody.
Brett, thanks for being an awesome co-host.
Absolutely. Likewise.